Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk Chinese Snowball Viburnum. So this is Viburnum macrocephalum, otherwise known as the Chinese Snowball Viburnum. These are very large growing shrubs or small trees. I'll let you guys argue over which. It eventually get quite large, mainly noted for these incredible large white inflorescences, these very large clusters of flowers that get bigger and bigger, honestly, as the plant gets bigger. These are deciduous plants, but in southern zones can be semi-evergreen. Viburnum macrocephalum can get 25 feet in height. This can become a small tree, which is what we're going to allow it to do in the space that we have it planted in. It will have kind of a vase shape like this and then be kind of rounded up at the top. They can be kept much smaller than that, and probably in colder zones like zone 6, it's probably not going to end up 25 feet anyway. So somewhere between, let's say, 10 and 25 feet plus is where this can be kept. They'll put on a substantial amount of growth pretty quickly. This was a 1-gallon container here probably 18 months ago, and just in this one season, it's grown quite a bit here. It's grown, probably more than 3 feet. The flowers are amazing. This inflorescence. This is an infertile inflorescence, meaning that doesn't have all the flower parts. Okay, so it's infertile, it's not going to produce seed. There is a form in China that is fertile and it produces seed and then a red berry, but the ones that you're going to buy here are going to be infertile, so they're not invasive. They start off as kind of a lime green color and then get whiter and whiter as time goes on. Again, this is a small plant with small clusters on it. These become really quite large over time. We're shooting this in October because we want to show you that this is repeat blooming. So they bloom heaviest in the spring, and so when we're, if you're following along with the Horttube with Jim Putnam channel, and we're doing a tour back here, you'll see this thing in flower in April or May, in full flower, and then here we are toward the end of October, and it's in flower again. So it's hardy in zone 6 to 9, and again in zone 6, I think you're looking more like a 10 by 10 type of shrub. In zone 7, 8, and 9, it will grow into a small tree and do it fairly quickly. In terms of sun or shade, the more sun, the more flower production, the more compact the plant is. You can see ours is a bit thin because we don't get quite as much sun in this spot as it would like. It is actually going to be able to get up into the sun though, and so at some point it's going to get quite a bit of sun on it. In the meantime, it's stretching up through a couple of things we have here that it will eventually tower over in the future. So it may look a little unusual now, but we're basically creating a tree between a couple shrubs here, and eventually it'll be up in the light and be able to take it full advantage, and the flower clusters will be bigger, they'll be more numerous, and the foliage will be a little more compact along the stems. So again, we're going to use this as a small tree that's next to our screen porch here, but it's also part of our mixed screen. We've got a couple evergreen things here beside it that will be lower and kind of visually block the view through to our neighbor, and then we'll have this small ornamental tree kind of towering over the two of them. So it's in a mixed border here. Great specimen plant, just one of a kind. Works great on the corner of a foundation if you have a kind of a sunny spot on one corner of your foundation. Works great, at the edge of a woodland garden where it's going to be on the sunnier part of it. But kind of any place you need. I think best a one of a kind, incredibly showy small tree in your landscape. Chinese Snowball Viburnum would like well-drained soil. It can take a somewhat moist soil, but not a poorly drained soil. So if it's an area that just holds water, that's probably too much water. But if it's a slightly moist area, that would be fine. In zone 6, it should be sheltered from some direct wind, and so you wouldn't use this out in the screen in zone 6 because it will dry the stems, dry the limbs out during the winter time. You probably won't get any of that spring flowering, so slightly protected there. Very, very drought tolerant once established. Good plant for letting you know when it's dry. It will wilt. and let you know when you first planted it, you want to water it extremely well, and then let it become slightly dry in between waterings. I say this very frequently, that we want to stress the plants a little. We don't want to stress them enough to hurt them, but we want to stress them enough that they actually try to root out into the surrounding soil and don't over baby them, so they do become, so they can survive on their own without us at some point. But again, great drought tolerance once established. A few maintenance things here. This one is planted in a bed space, not a lawn. So it had some compost mixed into the soil when it was planted. It's been well mulched the entire time. There's no real weeds. There are other things around it that have been shading its roots, which is honestly helpful for your plants, but there's no weeds around it. So we're keeping the area weed free, well mulched, watering it when it needs water. We fertilize all of our shrubs in the late winter, early spring, just once with an organic fertilizer. This is all this would need as long as the area is, again, well mulched. That mulch breaking down is helping feed your plants as well. And of course, the soil has most of what these plants need anyway. These can be pruned, and pruned hard, really, after they flower in the spring. So if you're trying to keep it down as a shrub, right after it flowers in the spring would be the time to hit it hard. If you're trying to limb it up into a tree, right after it blooms in the spring, again, I'll start to select some branches down toward the bottom that I'm going to take off to encourage, the upper growth on the top of it to stretch out. But this is one of my absolute favorite ornamental plants. It is an Asian plant, but it's non-invasive because we have sterile flowers on it, so it plays nice with our native landscape. So thank you guys very much for watching. This is Chinese Snowball Viburnum.